Hello and welcome to episode 213 of Sutton Impact Family Style. I'm Jason.
And I'm Bill. And the first thing I want to talk about today is it was like a nice, lazy Sunday morning, and I got to watch ESPN Top 10. And when I saw 3 and 2, I couldn't imagine what 1 was. But 3 was Steph Curry's ridiculous shot where he's jumping toward the sideline. He gets fouled. He's like he's doing a 3 and throws it, and it goes in. I don't know if you saw that one or not.
I did.
That one was absolutely ridiculous. And then the other one I really was blown away with was the Villanova quarterback getting ready to fall down, get sacked. He takes the ball. He's on probably about the 8 or 9 yard line, flips it blindly behind his back toward the goal line, and there's a guy wide open, catches it for a touchdown.
Yeah, that's pretty crazy.
It just, some of the things that you see are just pretty incredible that you get to see these things on film. And then Mookie Betts' catch last night to save the game, that was incredible too. I mean, there was a lot of amazing things, and I'm just thankful that, we've got things like ESPN with great video that they've saved these things so you can watch them the next day if you haven't seen them. So I'm really appreciative of that.
And then think, at some point you better buy those NFTs.
Yeah, no, those NFTs, that Steph Curry thing, that will go, because then they showed like 10 best crazy Steph Curry shots. And he's had some ridiculous shots.
Yeah.
But this one last night was the craziest one I'd seen.
It was pretty impressive. There's no question about that.
Yeah. And then also this morning, I played time to read the paper. There was a lot of talk about how well WrestleMania went in the stadium. And the amount of money they invested in it. They built their own pirate ship on the field.
It's crazy.
I know. WrestleMania, I mean, they are show people. And they understand the spectacle, and they understand what gets people excited. They do a great job of it.
And I would say, in my many decades of life, this is the last probably 5 to 6 years. Wrestling is the least guilty pleasure it's ever been. It's the most accepted by mainstream, I think, at this point that,
Than it's ever been.
And it's ever been. Like, it's always been popular, and it's always done really well, obviously. And you've always had, whether it's Hulk Hogan or The Rock, you've had stars break out of wrestling. But, I talked about Bad Bunny last week, but I think, it's on the Peacock. It's part of their package now. I think it's one of the big draws is you get all the pay-per-views and all the wrestling as part of one of the things help selling Peacock to people. And
it's global.
It's global. You also have more diversity in wrestling. And like I talked about last week, I mean, you have a number of African-American champions, and they're not being used poorly as they used to be, like a Disney film. And it's, like I said, I mean, I think you can say you love wrestling and it's no longer like, what's wrong with you? It's fake. Like, I feel like it's gotten to its point where it's pretty mainstream, pretty popular.
And I can't, they only had 30-some thousand at WrestleMania, and I know they would have sold it out. And, pre-pandemic, that would have people from probably 100 different countries come.
Oh, easily.
I mean, it is globally accepted, globally popular. I remember when they had WrestleMania in Hartford. Remember that when we lived up there?
Vaguely.
Well, you could go, the whole thing that went with it, you could go and you could lay in the Undertaker's coffin and you could do all these crazy things. And I remember the lines of these fans from all over the world trying to do these things or jump off the turnbuckle or do different things. I mean, and they just loved it. So, I mean, we don't look down on it anymore. It's an acceptable form of entertainment.
And I can tie our last two conversation into one. Logan Paul was actually at WrestleMania, and he got hit with a stunner from Kevin Owens. I'm not sure how much he got paid. But then, in legitimate fighting, in MMA, Ben Askren, who was a pretty legitimate MMA fighter, he's pretty well known, he got TKO'd in the first round by Jake Paul, the other Paul brother. This is the first fight I think either one of them has had on a professional level against a legitimate competitor. And TKO'd him in the first round. So, as annoying as they are, and, the terrible things they've done, throughout the years, like, I got to give them a little respect. They've taken fighting seriously, not, whether it be fake or, and he's, like I said, Logan Paul really sold the stunner in a really nice way.
Okay.
And Jake Paul busted up Ben Askren. And like I said, that's a guy that was fighting Conor McGregor. So
Well, that's legit.
that's legit, you know? It's
And in other
crazy.
news of things we never talk about, the Miami Dolphins are bringing an F1 race to Miami.
Oh, okay.
And Miami's such a global city that will go over really, really well. They'll do it in Miami. The Dolphins guys do a phenomenal job. Just like the WWE guys, they know what to do and they know how to create a premier event with premier hospitality and make it first class. So the F1 event, I think it's in 2022, will be really, really amazing.
And I have
So
heard,
kudos to those guys.
yeah, I've heard that both F1 and any kind of racing you really have to see it in person. And as someone that loves hockey and has said that to other people, you know, I've never experienced racing in person, so I can't speak to it in any level. But I've heard it's one of those sports.
You didn't go to that when you were growing up. You didn't go with us to the downtown Grand Prix in Columbus.
I don't think I did, or if I did, I have no memory of it.
I remember taking my students to that and working that, and that was pretty incredible to see those cars zipping along downtown streets at night with their lights on.
Yeah,
it was pretty impressive. But you know, it's again one of those things where you can't do it, but you're excited by it, and you admire the people that can do it.
but I've heard that it doesn't I mean, once you're a fan, then it translates to TV for you. But to really get a sense of the speed and everything else, it's one of those like go in person, watch it, and then you'll experience it on a different level.
Absolutely, and I would say that about a lot of things. I mean, you know, I'm not the biggest hockey fan in the world, and you know, I used to say, well, they only play for a minute or 2 minutes at a time. And then one time when I sat on the glass and I watched how hard those guys play for 2.5 minutes, and how dripping wet they are when they come off the ice, then you understand the speed of the game and how hard it is to play that. And that's why you only play that many minutes before switching out.
Yeah, I think, and we brought this up before, but when sports eventually, you know, like I said, I have my Oculus Quest 2, my VR, you know, it's wireless. You just charge it, you're ready to go. You can watch Netflix on it, you can play games on it. It's a fantastic device. But I feel like sports eventually in concerts, once we get unique views that the normal consumer never gets to see. But if you put me in the cockpit in my Oculus VR of an F1 or a NASCAR, I feel like that could make a lot more fans. Like that would be something I would want to experience.
You experience something like that, yeah, that's a good way to do it.
And again, I don't know what the parameters are, the cost, but I mean, you know, you can stream anything through your headset, and like I said, it's comfortable, it's lightweight now, it's wireless. Like you put that on my head, and I would want to do a race that way, just to see, you know.
Yeah.
And again, I don't know when they're going to get that done, but tell them to hurry because I think that'd be kind of cool.
Yeah, no question. It's some amazing early season baseball matchups. The Padres and the Dodgers, and the Yankees and the Rays have been really, really fun games to watch. And you know, they don't feel like April games. They feel like almost postseason games.
And I know we talked,
kind of incredible.
And you've obviously seen them live this year, and we talked about them preseason. And I know they're technically in last place, but have the Pirates been better than you expected?
So far, yes. But, you know, last night they were reverted to normal. They gave up 7 runs in the first 2 innings.
But, I mean, they have beaten them.
They're as good as they're starting. They have guys that can hit and guys that hustle and play hard. And their relief pitching is amazingly good. But their starting pitching is pretty weak. So we'll see. I mean, I still expect them to lose 100 games easy.
Okay. I mean, I know I checked.
Had a good time going, and I want to talk about that a little bit. So, you know, we went to 4 games, and on opening day, you know, you got to wear a mask to get in, and then you're supposed to keep your mask on unless you were eating and drinking. Well, people kind of took advantage of that, and they had their mask hanging on their ear, and they weren't really eating and drinking. So it was the MLB telecast, so the MLB game of the day.
Yeah.
And MLB called out the Pirates for the people not wearing their masks. And the next 3 games, the ushers were really enforcing you wearing your mask properly and correctly, unless you were actively eating and drinking. And actively eating and drinking means that you would take a bite, chew it, and then if you weren't taking another bite right away, you put your mask on, or you weren't taking another sip right away.
Right. So
they were really on top of it. And then, you know, the Pirates had 8,000 a game, even though they were approved for 50%. But you can't have 50% if you have to have 6 feet social distancing.
No.
So they had what they could have, which is kind of insane because, we flew to get there, right?
Yeah.
So we're coming off an airplane where you don't have a foot of social distancing. And you're inside, and now you're going to a baseball game that's outside, and you've got to have 6 feet of social distancing. So I'm trying to figure that out. It doesn't make a lot of sense.
No.
Maybe 3 feet social distancing or whatever it is, but you're outside if you're wearing a mask. I don't know. So it's just, I know we have to do some things, but that's one. I think you have to look at it and compare the other parts of society that are going on.
Yeah, and then to the people listening, if you don't want to wear a mask, then get the vaccine. You can't do both.
Yeah, I saw a stat, and then we don't want to talk politics, but I saw a stat that 45% Republicans say they're not going to get a vaccine.
Yeah.
That's just stupid.
You say you want herd immunity, you want to go back to normal, so,
Yeah, we can't get back to normal until everybody's vaccinated. You're not going to get herd. I think 39% of the country's vaccinated right now. You're not going to get herd immunity at 40%.
No. And, it's not that bad. I got my first shot, so it's, you've had both. Most people I know have had both. It's perfectly fine. Well, I guess we got to talk a little draft. And I guess the big topic they're bringing up this week, and you never know how much it is or how much it isn't, but it's, it brings in, I guess, a little bit of politics with race, and that's Justin Fields. There's a good chance that all of this is a smokescreen, and he could end up being the 3rd overall pick. On a number of betting sites, he's supposed to be the 3rd overall pick. So, I know people need something to talk about, but, every year quarterbacks get broken down. But they were saying that a lot of people are pointing out that, the way that they're criticizing Justin Fields is the way they've typically criticized African-American quarterbacks in the past. Talking him out as an athlete, so it feels like, we haven't really come very far. But at the same time, until the draft takes place, you don't know what you've heard. Nothing you hear is probably true.
Agreed.
Once you get past Trevor Lawrence is going to be the first pick in the draft, I don't think we really know anything else.
Well, I have seen Justin Fields go 3 to the 49ers, go 8 to the Patriots if they've traded up.
Right.
Go 15 and go 24 to the Steelers.
I don't think
that's a lot of range.
Yeah. I feel like those are happy. As a Steeler fan, we would love if Justin Fields was somehow sitting there at 24. I don't see a world where he's past the top 10.
No.
I've also seen a few mocks where Mac Jones falls pretty far too. Where people obviously think more about, okay, he may be good at this, this, and this, but he's got, over the last 2 seasons, 4 of his receivers are going to be top 20 NFL picks, and 8 of his offensive linemen are probably gone in the first 2 rounds, and 2 of the running backs. So, it's hard to imagine giving up all the 49ers who went out there to get Mac Jones.
The smoke screens this year seem more intense than ever.
Yeah.
The speculation, but there's so many, every network has their own version of Mel Kiper.
Oh yeah.
It's like, I don't know, it's incredible. And I just don't know. I saw a guy on social media today, and his tweet was, please no more mock drafts. There's every day there's a new mock draft.
And people have pointed out, the best mock drafters, or the most famous ones, are below the Mendoza line as far as getting the picks right.
Yeah.
And they're considered the best. The only
way you could nail 32 out of 32. There's no way.
No.
If you got 16 out of 32 in the right order and to the right team, that's an accomplishment to me.
Yeah. And even when you react, you think about, I saw the first round, the redone, if you redid the draft from 2 years ago, just on a personal note, they said that 3 Steelers players, Claypool, Highsmith, and Dotson, would have all been much higher picks. So you just never know. This year we know Trevor Lawrence is number 1 because he's been number 1 since he was a junior in high school. And it seemed to be that Justin Fields was going to be number 2 up until right after the season ended, when he played an incredible hurt game against Clemson. So who knows, But hopefully, just the overreaction to a mock draft is pretty crazy.
There's no doubt about that. I mean, so
Especially when you know that teams are literally lying constantly. Because, I mean, and this is a terrible practice, but we have a lot of those in this country. But, I mean, teams will downplay a player in the hopes that that makes the player fall on the boards if they get to draft them.
yeah, or you build up hope that you really want somebody, and so somebody else makes a move to take him, and you really want him out of the way so you get the guy you want.
Exactly.
Yeah, so, yeah, we see it all. I mean, Trevor Lawrence is one. Do we agree with the BYU guys too?
I honestly don't know. I mean, he played 1 year. He had a pretty devastating injury 2 years ago. I could see the Jets easily taking Justin Fields.
Okay.
I mean, like I said, Justin Fields was, coming into the season, and even through the first couple weeks of the season, people were debating taking him over Trevor Lawrence. So it's crazy that he went from there to, the last player.
Well, right now looks like Trey Lance is dropping, or he's having another pro day now too.
Yeah.
So because he hasn't, what did he play last year? One game.
He played one game. He didn't play that well, but I mean, in the middle of COVID, you have one bizarre game you get to play. So.
Yeah, I mean, it's kind of crazy.
I think it's pretty clear that 5, if not 6, quarterbacks are going off the board in the first round, because that David Mills of Stanford apparently is, highly thought of. So we know quarterback's probably the most difficult position to get in all of sports, and maybe you could argue is easily the most important position in any sport. So much hangs on what the quarterback is and isn't. So they're all going to go. They're all going to get paid. And, and as we've seen, if you fall to 13 and Kansas City trades up to get you, that's probably the best place you can be. Or you sit a year behind, Brett Favre, and then you get to be Aaron Rodgers. I mean, there's a pretty big advantage in not being on one of the worst teams in football.
Yeah.
It's one of the reasons Sam Darnold is still thought of to be good, is because he played for such a bad organization and bad coach that people are like, well, maybe he is good. It was just them. So.
I mean, that coach has been bad in 2 organizations.
Yeah, and everybody that's left there has gotten better.
Yeah.
So it's kind of amazing he's still employed.
You got to write into that. You got to say,
maybe this isn't the guy. But that's pretty much all we have.
Guys I really like, so we'll see what happens. But
yeah.
I guess I'm hoping the Steelers take Najee from Alabama.
I think if he was healthy, I would like that Landon Dickerson, the center from Alabama.
Mm-hmm.
But I feel like, the one, if you think about actual truisms from football, one of the ones seems to be if you're injured a lot in college, you're probably going to be injured a lot in the pros.
Probably so.
And I know during Mac Jones' press conference, he was in the background doing cartwheels, and he loves football, and he got to be on the, the kneel down play in the championship game. And he seems like, he's a locker room leader and a great center when healthy. But if you've been injured 4 times in your college career, I've seen a lot of mock drafts having the Steelers pick him, and I just don't want to see that.
My favorite mock draft has him taking Najee number 1 and the center from Wisconsin, Whitewater, wherever it is, number 2 in the second round.
Yeah.
And if that happened, that would be a great draft.
Yeah. I mean, if you're going through with this team and you brought back as many players as you brought back, you clearly think you got a shot. And I'm hoping they do. Like I said, I'm not going to bet any money on that, but I'll buy speculative Bitcoin before I would earn, any kind of cryptocurrency before I'd bet the Steelers. But you just never know. But if you're going to do it, you might as well get the best running back, get as many assets as you can right now, and just, re-up and go for it. I mean, they brought back Vince Williams and Josh Dobbs. They're bringing the whole crew back one more time. So.
All right. So I'm going to ask you a couple questions. You have not prepared for this because I didn't tell you I was going to do this.
Okay.
All right, draft question number 1. Do the Patriots take a quarterback in the first round?
I think they do.
Okay. Related to that, do the Patriots make a trade and move up?
I think they're going to have to.
Usually trades and goes down.
Like I said, I as much as I just, mock the mock draft process, I do pay attention to it. I could see them, because it's Bill Belichick and he loves to do it, trading down and taking David Mills late, or trading back up late in the first round to get David Mills. Um,
Okay.
I don't know who a Bill Belichick guy is at quarterback. you know,
Well, a lot of people were saying it's Mac Jones.
I. But again, one of the reasons they say the 49ers like Mac Jones is because Kyle Shanahan had success with Kirk Cousins and Matt Ryan. And Mac Jones is similar physically to those players. And I'm sure that's the kind of thing where, yes, that's obviously a fact. Those are two players he had pretty good success with. He made them both look really good in his system. But if you could have a guy like Justin Fields that could have the arm strength and do the same things throwing the football, but also could run a 4.40 and, open up your offense in that way, I think you would want that, you know? Like you can drive, a base model Toyota and get really good miles and do everything you want to do with it. But if you could afford, a Mercedes, a BMW, a Tesla, like you'd rather have the Tesla, right?
Right.
Like, and I don't think, Matt Ryan is, just because he went to a Super Bowl with Matt Ryan, I don't think that's the guy you want.
Okay, draft question number 2. Who's the first wide receiver off the board?
Oh, Jamar Chase by a mile. Not even close. That guy is incredible.
And that's a guy from LSU.
That's a guy from LSU.
Okay.
I think physically they showed he's got all the traits you want. He had the huge productive season in college. And I think, and if I was a GM, as great as Devontae Smith looked this year, I would be scared off by 170 pounds.
Yeah.
I mean, I know the game is a much kinder game and people aren't getting hit quite as hard as they were, but it's still a speed, physical game. And that would just worry me,
Okay, and this might be the hardest question. This is your last one.
Okay.
If the draft was in person and there was a green room,
Okay.
which player is sitting there the longest? Who's the biggest surprise that they don't get drafted as high as you think they're going to get drafted?
I think just because we know the first 3 picks are quarterbacks. And we know that, Pittsburgh, Chicago, New England, Washington, and I'm probably forgetting, maybe Philadelphia if the right quarterback is there, even though they kind of semi-committed to Jalen Hurts. Like, I think there's too many quarterback-heavy teams for a guy to slip that far. I don't think he's going to fall too far, but I do think Devontae Smith might be the guy that slides a little further than people think. He's got the Heisman. I think people are going to look at, he doesn't have the best. I know you look at his film and he's everything you want on film. But then you look at under 6 foot, 170 pounds, does have an injury history, and he doesn't have the great, he's not a spark athlete. Like he doesn't have the best 40 time and all that sort of stuff. I think he kind of slides a little bit. Because I think we've ignored Micah Parsons and a lot of these incredible defensive players. And I think a lot of those guys go a little early. And then I think we're going to see a run on offensive linemen too. Because as good as receivers are, you saw in that Super Bowl, you can have the best offensive weapons on the field. If you can't protect your quarterback, even the great Pat Mahomes can't win a game for you.
Okay.
Who would be your pick to slide?
Trey Lance.
Really?
Mm-hmm.
I just think he's too physically gifted to slide too far.
But I'm saying slide. I'm saying not top 5.
Oh, okay. Yeah. Well, I can see that. Yeah.
I'm saying like maybe 11, maybe 12.
Because Atlanta's in a weird position. You've got Matt Ryan, and they're sort of like the Steelers, where they sort of, the Steelers were last year, where you're sort of committed to the guy you have for 2 years financially. And if you're the Falcons, you're sitting at 4. Like you could have a Jamar Chase to pair with Julio Jones and Ridley. You could have a Kyle Pitts, that monster tight end from Florida. There's a lot of guys you could have that could help you win now, which I assume you want to do by keeping Matt Ryan. But how often are you going to be in the top 5, a top 4 pick with 5 first-round quarterbacks on the board to get a successor? The current top 5, the Bengals, I think, the only team you could guarantee wouldn't take a quarterback.
Yeah, I would say that's true.
And you presume that the Dolphins are going to give Tua one more shot. So.
Yeah, they're not taking a quarterback.
No. But I mean, I know Carolina drafted, they traded for Sam Darnold, but I think if the right guy is on the board at 8, I could see them taking a quarterback and figuring it out later.
Yeah, or taking a quarterback and holding them hostage.
We know Denver wants a quarterback. That's the other team I forgot. So
it'll be interesting to watch Carolina on draft day.
It will.
To see who's trying to get their spot. That's the spot everybody has New England trading up to get.
And I think if Atlanta does something different, whether if Atlanta were to go quarterback, obviously if you're the Dolphins or the Bengals, you would consider moving back really quick. Because now that means 4 quarterbacks are off the board. There's only one left. And if you're the quarterback needy team, you're probably going to give up a haul to get him. And then the players you like could fall further down.
Yeah.
Because it seems like this draft is pretty deep, All
right, a little bit more football talk. Available free agents. So I was reading today the most likely landing spots for some of these players.
Mm-hmm.
Where do you think the most likely spot they said was for Antonio Brown?
I assume it's back in Tampa Bay or Kansas City.
Kansas City. Because Tampa Bay's only got $1.1 million left under the cap.
Yeah.
And Antonio Brown wants for top wide receiver money, like $10, $11 million a year.
He's not going to get that from anybody.
No, he's not.
He physically is gifted enough to get it, but he just, like I said, I mean, he's given so many chances just to sit home and not do anything stupid, and he just couldn't do that.
Yeah. And I didn't see Le'Veon Bell listed anywhere.
No. Well, I mean, if the Steelers, let's just say, take Najee Harris in the first round, there's a good chance Najee Harris will never see a second contract with the Steelers. Like, it's sad, but that's how running backs are,
Yeah.
And you look like, you give Barkley the money, he's hurt. Ezekiel, it's been bad. I mean, running back is just one of the most brutal positions you can play, and you just don't last long. So you're on your rookie deal, and you're going to get run into the ground for 3 years, and then you're going to get cut, or you're going to be on, a prove-it deal, and, it's very rare that a second contract works out for a running back.
Yeah, and I'd say that no matter who drafts Najee.
Yeah.
He's going to take a beating for 3 years.
Mm-hmm.
Any hockey news?
Well, the Penguins are now in second place in the East, which is pretty incredible.
Yeah, they played well.
And it's, they gave up another pick this year, but they keep finding young guys that can come in and contribute. And then they once again end up sending guys down that seemed like they were playing really well. But I mean, you can't argue with, I'm not an expert, so I can't argue with it. But I'm excited for Penguins hockey. I mean, obviously the regular season basis, but so many teams in hockey make the playoffs. It really does come down to playoffs and who gets hot and who gets not,
And who's healthy, who's not.
And who's healthy and who's not. I will say, though,
seem to be having a rash of injuries lately.
As much as I love Malkin, and he's obviously an all-timer and a Hall of Famer, he does stunt that offense a little bit because he's so slow and plotting. He's a little bit like old school, like Carmelo Anthony for our NBA heads out there, where he's an incredible scorer, great with the ball, and technically a proven winner over the course of his career. But you have to play his style of basketball or his style of hockey. And, he holds onto the puck. He's a little, moves a little slower. And he does get results, but him being out they don't miss a beat with him out. And sometimes I think they play better overall with him out. Which is hard to say because, again, you're like, well, this guy's, a potential 50-game-a-year goal a year score every year he's out there. And he's a Hall of Famer. But I don't think he fits their style of hockey. And I argued they maybe should have sold high on him like 3 seasons ago. And again, that would come down to what you got for him. But, just fit. Sometimes fit isn't the right place for people.
You got a lot of injuries on the NBA side. So it's going to be interesting to see what playoffs come in there.
It will be. I mean, and then obviously, condolences to LaMarcus Aldridge's career. I think he made the right decision, but, it looked like he was going to jump on Brooklyn, contribute to get a cup. But, he took his health seriously and he retired, which is pretty sad to see.
Health is health.
Health is health. And it's nice to see a person make, a smart life decision from time to time over work.
Yep, yep. Because sometimes you just don't say it.
And he clearly did. Well, I have kind of two food moments for you.
Okay.
One, I think I've shouted them out before, but District Donuts, which is famous for their donuts, but I actually don't like their donuts. They make an awesome brisket sandwich. One, they make like a hot chicken honey biscuit, and then they also make a bacon, egg, and cheese biscuit. And like I said, when you go there, you watch them. They crack the egg on the griddle. They use nice thick cut bacon. Biscuits made in house. It's a really good sandwich. And then the other one, I sent you pictures. Little Jay's Donuts, because I looked them up. It's a little family operated shop. They do breakfast, they do regular breakfast too, but they brought their donuts to work, and they're pretty good. They got a lot of different varieties.
It's a great photo.
Yeah. Well, I sent you a picture of their chantilly donut, which is, sort of your white cream mixed with berries. So they had strawberry, blueberry, raspberry.
I would be all over that one.
Yeah.
Well, I had numerous food moments in Pittsburgh, of course. Fiore's Pizza, which was open for takeout, so I ended up eating Fiore's Pizza in the car, and it was still outstanding. Franco's, which is an old Pittsburgh restaurant that's moved around a little bit, famous for their fried zucchini, Jason. I know you're a big fan of that.
I am. It's very good.
And had veal parm there there was so much veal parm I gave to somebody else after I ate what I wanted, and he had 2 more meals out of it. The largest portion of veal parm I've ever seen. And then we went to our favorite Alla Familia, which was outstanding, as usual. But my new one was the North Shore Tavern. Okay?
Okay.
Right across the street from PNC Park. And their famous dish is steak on a stone. So they bring you, I had steak and scallops on a stone. And they bring you this stone at 800 degrees and an 8-ounce filet and 3 scallops, and you cook it. And they tell you how long to cook it for a certain way. And you have to cut the steak up into smaller pieces so that it cooks all the way through. But it was delicious.
Okay. Oh, and
it's really neat to sit at your table and be able to do that, but it was really good.
Yeah. And I guess I know I've talked about them before, but because they still are only just a pop-up 2 days a week now, Zee's Pizza, Zee, look them up on Instagram. Best pizza in New Orleans. Hands down.
All right, well, I'm looking forward to trying that one when I come to New Orleans.
That one, like I said, you got to follow them on Instagram. The orders will go up live. You have to DM them. Pick a time and the pizza you want, and then pick a time to pick it up on one of the 2 days they're open. So it is a bit of work to get it, but I've had it now 3 times, and it just holds up every single time.
All right. Entertainment-wise, I'm going to give you Mar or Mare, M-A-R-E, of Eastwood starts tonight on HBO, and it looks outstanding.
It does look very, very good.
7 episodes, mystery, looks really, really good. I'm into the 3rd episode of Showtime's City on a Hill of the 2nd year, and I would defy anybody. It's a great story, but I would defy anybody to find a more unlikable cast. I mean, every character, there's something wrong with, and you don't like them. It's pretty incredible. It's a good story.
Yeah.
But Kevin Bacon plays probably one of the most disgusting FBI agents in the history of FBI agents.
Well, that's some endorsement.
But it's a great show. I love the show.
Yeah. I'm currently watching The Serpent, which is a limited series on Netflix. It says based on a true story, and it's entertaining. I can't quite recommend it fully, but I'll probably talk about it more next week after I finish the series.
Okay.
But it's, international show. We're in France, we're in India, we're in Bangkok. And we got a bad guy stealing people's identities and murdering them with poisons. So supposedly based on a true story, but I haven't done any of the Googling either, so.
Well, for sports this week, one of my favorite sporting events, the women's volleyball championship start.
Okay.
And I love women's volleyball, so I'm going to be watching that. There's a bunch of matches today that I'll probably start watching today. Always great talent, fun to watch.
All right. well, I guess until next week. Thank you for supporting us. Keep contacting us with questions. If you give us thumbs up on iTunes, that helps a lot too. Tell your friends, family, all that good stuff. And again, thank you to all our Patreon supporters.